How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself, what you do basically, your purpose, what you feel you were called to do on this earth?
Well, I think just to make it short, what I'm called to do is to be a beacon of hope for people. The people around me, people in my community. So what I do is I run an NGO with a friend of mine called Shed Hope. And what the NGO does is focuses on issues and challenges that are in the community that we can, identify and see how best we can help. So we use our resources, our time, our connections, wherever we can, to make a change and to bring hope to people.
That's nice. It's always nice to have people who give back. Yeah. So now tell me, as you can see that COVID has had us all in dire straits, we're all broke. And unemployment statistics are just flying through the roof. How do you think that has impacted women?
The sad part about all of this is that even prior COVID, women have always been a great percentage when it comes to unemployment, when it comes to, when you speak of HIV/AIDS, all these other negatives, and you look at the percentages, women are always in the higher percentage. And I think now it has gotten worse because people are being laid off, and there's a lot of people that are losing their homes. They can't take their children to school, and imagine the number of female-headed households. And if a mother loses a job and there's other people, there's a ripple effect in that. There's other people that are affected by that person losing a job. But I think that women are hit very hard. And when I was doing my research, I found out that yes, as the rate of unemployment increases in the country, women are in a higher percentage of the people that have been laid out of their work and have found themselves without a salary, to get through day by day.
Yeah, and I believe that all of this is also highly impacted by skills shortage. What kind of impact do you think, to what level does skills shortage affect unemployment amongst women? Because you know that a lot of women grew up where, you have to take care of the siblings, can't afford to go to school, have a baby too early, and you don't have a support system, so you just literally have to drop out. Basically, women are unskilled. How does that affect all of this?
I think if you look at the sectors that have been impacted greatly are those sectors where the skills that are required are really soft skills. You look at the food industry, the restaurants, they're the mostly that have closed. The clothing shops, because most of them had to close for quite a long time, and they had to lay off a lot of people. And these are the industry where you find a lot of women being employed. And that should tell you that women really need to be multi-skilled in order for them to be able to move around in the employment sector or in the employment market. Because right now, sectors are changing, or times and things are changing. Everything now has gone virtual. Everything now is on the internet. So it means there are people whose jobs will be replaced by computers, literally whose jobs will not be the same. Therefore, I feel like issue of shortage of skills impacts greatly, because now you are no longer serving at a restaurant, and that is probably the only skill that you have or the only experience that you have. And the sector is changing. How do you make yourself indispensable in this era? So it's quite difficult, and I think it's something that government needs to look into, the private sector needs to look into, but also as individuals, how do we multi-skill ourselves in order for us to be able to be movable, to move around in the employment sector. Though it is hard for those that do not have source of income. Because if I am in the farm areas and I do not have money and I'm looking after my siblings, how do I skill myself?
True.
Before we used to do volunteer work, we used to go to organizations and volunteer in order for you to get some form of experience.
True,
I think that is also still relevant. It's still relevant for somebody to say, can I go into this space? Can I go into your business and learn a skill? Even though you might not pay me, even though you might pay me a little amount of money, but it will go a long way into making sure that you are employable in the future. future.
True that.
Yeah.
Yes, speaking of government, in an earlier conversation, you said to me that you're really worried about the way government is not doing anything, basically. And you told me also that you do a whole lot of research.
Yeah.
So in your research, I'm pretty sure you've noticed patterns on how government do things and all that. Let's not even involve the private sector, because the private sector, yes, they're obligated to contribute, but not as much as government. Do you think government is doing enough to curb this skill shortage amongst women?
I think that in terms of legislative framework, government has done enough to put in the legislation there to ensure that whatever happens in the country in terms of skills development and in the workforce or in any sector of employment, there is policies that govern how the private sector or even the government runs their businesses, or how they deal with their employees, and how do they deal with issues of skills development. So I think the legislative framework is there. They've also set up CETAs, which deal with training and skilling in different sectors, but now the issue is the implementation of those policies. Is it being done properly? Is anybody, giving us feedback to say, so far, this is how many people we've skilled? Yes, you've skilled them, but are they placed? Because you see there's a whole lot of skilling that's happening. But what happens now? What is the output? Are people being placed at the end of them being skilled? And the reason why I also mentioned the private sector, you will understand that private sector also plays a huge role, because they also take a chunk of the how do I put it, of the whatever is available,
The workforce, basically.
whatever is available in the workforce. The unfortunate part is that we've seen a number of companies that are getting skilled employees outside this country, because their cry is that there aren't enough skills in this country, especially when you get into the engineering sector. I know we've had a huge debate about Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, who went and outsourced engineers from another country, and saying that the country doesn't have enough. That is the information that is out there that says there aren't enough engineers, there aren't enough IT specialists, there aren't enough mining specialists, and that is the information that is there. And those are the sectors that at the moment are growing the economy during this pandemic. Therefore, it means that when it comes to skilling, government needs to look at which are the sectors that mostly are active in the economy during this time, and say, how do we then ensure that women are skilled? And if you look at the sectors that I've mentioned, they are your traditionally masculine sectors. They are men-dominated sectors. How do we then ensure that women are skilled and are able to also take part in this sector? How are we ensuring that women are not only administrators and receptionists and secretaries and, they clean and they make tea? How do now they become part of the decision makers in those companies, even in government? So I feel like, government still needs to look at the implementation of the legislative framework. How best can government work with the private sector to ensure that women are being skilled and they are being placed, and not only at the entry level, but also in decision making positions.
Now, excuse me. Let's delve a bit deeper into implementation. We've gone through the processes of legislation, skills development, the CETAs, and everything. These skills development programs that have been started. Now, once you're skilled, you've got the certificate. You can't sit at home with the certificate, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's a question for you. Do you feel like government is doing enough, to give both men and women equal opportunities moving forward from completing whatever skills development course you were doing, receiving your qualification? Do you think from there going forward, there is equal job opportunities for both male and women, or are jobs still mostly male-dominated as much as legislation insists otherwise?
As much as legislation insists otherwise, the reality is different. It speaks something else.
Yeah.
I went through the Stats Essay, a webpage wanted to see exactly that when you speak of statistics of employment, what does it say about women in the country? And it says exactly what I'm saying. That in terms of employment and opportunities, men are still in large percentages, are still in large numbers. And it also says that where women are, they are not decision makers. So it is difficult for women to now say, let's open doors for other women because we're not the decision makers. So the policies are there, all the legislation is there, but in terms of implementation, it's something different. So yes, I have to say that South Africa has made great strides in empowering women. But if you look at all these sectors where they are great decision makers, no, women are still at a very low. They are below the 50% threshold. So I feel like there's still a lot that needs to be done.
Yeah. So here's something else that really bothers me, because I've been a woman. I've been in a workplace where basically the men were being taken more seriously because they're more masculine, they're able to pack stock more conveniently and all that. How can I as a woman make myself more indispensable in the workplace, from retail right down to your mines, doctors, everywhere, in each and every sector? How can a woman ensure that they're indispensable, and basically when the bosses think of firing them, they look at them and see an asset and feel that, no, we can't do this?
I feel like firstly, before a woman makes themselves indispensable in the work sector, let's also look at, do organizations look at how society is structured? All right, so I'm a mother. I'm a mother of two. I'm a single woman. And if I were to compete with a man who is a family man who's got kids, right? Do you know that it might work against me, the fact that I'm a single mother? Why? Because I have this responsibility that I'm not sharing with anyone. But there's this man, he's also a father, but that might not work against him. Why? Because there's somebody looking after the kids at home.
True, yes.
There is a woman that's holding things down at home. So when we get into the boardroom, now when they look at me and they're thinking, should we give her a decision-making position? Now she falls pregnant, now she has to go to maternity. Now it means for the next 3 to 4 months, we're going to have to find a replacement. But that is the reality, and that's nature. There's really nothing as women we can do about it. Yes, we are going to fall pregnant, and yes, we're going to have to go to maternity. But there is a man who's also a father who also needs to be taking responsibility of the kids. So I just also feel like, as much as we want to make ourselves indispensable, organizations need to realize that the way society is structured, it does put a little more pressure on women more than it does on men when it comes to looking after the kids at home and ensuring that things run smoothly in the household. But as women also, I think that should not be an excuse for not being skilled, for not ensuring that you're knowledgeable about things, and ensuring that you're multi-skilled. Not only skilled in one part of what you do, but also be multi-skilled, because when you're multi-skilled, yes, you do become indispensable, because they're thinking, if we let go of one person who can do 5 more things, it's a loss to the company than letting go of one person who is good at one thing. So if you were now to stand in a position where they need to decide between you and somebody else, and you are multi-skilled, and you're a person who's able to deal with change, you adapt to change, you learn quickly, you are always on your toes, you are ready to get going, I think it also works out for you, it works out in your favor. Because now they can use you in any other, they can move you around. Unlike you be this one person who's like a tree. There is a tree, it's either we chop it off or we allow it to give the same fruit every day.
I hear you.
So yeah.
That totally makes sense. Yes, so now, one problem that we all face in life is that quality education comes at a very, very high price. So how does one get skilled properly the way they need to, especially for those living below poverty lines? How does one work around that?
I feel that we live in an era of information. Information is readily available everywhere. I do research. Most of the things that I know, some of the things people go to school to learn. But the very same things are also readily available for me to learn online. That's one. So we need to make time to grow our knowledge. Ensure that at least, learn something new. Put in the time in learning new information and getting new knowledge. Be relevant. That's also important. Align yourself with the times. What's in? What's the information that's out there? You can't allow yourself to always be saying, I feel like, and I'm not saying people are making an excuse when it comes to we are poor, we are living below the poverty line. There's Wi-Fi freely available in different places. Well, not all municipalities do provide free Wi-Fi, but I just feel like we do buy airtime to go, we do buy data to sit on Facebook and watch other things and take in things that we find on Instagram, on Twitter, that doesn't really grow us in any way. That actually puts us under pressure, because now we're looking at people who are making it. We're spending our time watching other people making it instead of giving ourselves time to learn more, to grow. And do volunteer. Do go into organizations and say, what can you teach me? Can I tell you that I learned how to do admin work at an organization where I was not paid? That is years ago. People would see you now and think, oh, she went to school, oh, she knows this, oh, because now she's graduated, da 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 da. If I were to tell you where I started, I did a lot of volunteer work before I graduated. I learned admin work in an organization where I was not paid. I was volunteering. I would get there daily, like all other employees, on time, do what needs to be done. Leave work at 4 like everybody else. You would swear I was employed, that I was getting a salary. But I knew what I was getting from it. So for me, it was a matter of how am I going to spend my time. Secondly, I started working for an organization that was teaching people about HIV/AIDS. We would walk in this community during the day, scorching sunlight, but we did it. That's how I learned about community development. That's how I got to be exposed about the things that communities go through, far or outside what I'm exposed to on the daily. I got to see what other people in other parts of my community experience of the daily. So it's not always a matter of you have to sit on a desk in a school for you to get experience, for you to get knowledge. Give yourself time to grow. Give yourself time to learn. Just go out there. Just go out there and put yourself out there. And there's opportunities that might arise where you would find that, say, we're giving people experiential learning for 6 months. You come through, and opportunities are there. I just think people need to be out there for them to get the right information.
Brilliant. Now, as women, we fear intimidation. Basically, let me talk about gender versus gender here. You get to a workplace, you're probably going to resign in 2 months or so if you find that all the staff are male and you're the only female there. You intimidate them because you do something they do so good, so now they decide to bully you. 2 months, Prudence resigns. How can you encourage women to, jump into environments that have been said as off limits for women, that have been said to be male dominated? How can you encourage a woman to go in there, be fearless, do what you do, and come out on top?
Phew, that is a hard one, especially when you talk about intimidation in the workplace. Well, the honest truth is that women do experience that. I mean, I've experienced that in the workplace, where you find yourself in a space where, because you're a woman, you're looked at as a, if only. That she's good enough to be a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, she's good enough to be my side chick. Above that, well, what else can
what
she
else
tell
can you
me?
offer?
What else can she offer? And I feel like there are processes that you can take, the steps that you can take to report, such activities in the workplace. That's one. Two, I think it's also important that we strengthen ourselves. One, you need to be spiritually strong as an individual. I'm going to talk about individual growth, because those things require that you become strong as an individual, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Now, that requires a lot of personal work, where you would have a mentor, have a psychologist, or have a therapist, somebody that you can sit down and have conversations with about your work life, about your life in general, so that they're able to assist you, so that they're able to guide you in how you face certain situations. But the honest truth is that certain things are not allowed in the workplace. So you go and you report. How many times are we going to resign? Because we're going to find ourselves in these situations. And unfortunately, we will need to push back in order for us to say we're marking territory in these so-called male-dominated industries. So it's a matter of working on yourself as an individual, but also knowing that nobody has a right. Nobody has a right to bully you in the workplace. You are employed as much as I'm employed, and I'm here to do what needs to be done.
That takes us right back to being informative. Read, ladies, so that you know your rights. Your managers don't have a right to speak to you a certain way, treat you a certain way because you're a woman. Read, go on the internet and read. Believe me, reading is going to give you knowledge that will help you survive all this drama that goes on in the workplace. So now, there's this problem where males, let me not even say companies, more males inside companies complain about women receiving the same remuneration, yet wanting special treatment like maternity leave and leave of compassion. My daughter's sick, I gotta go. Males are complaining about that. How can women be given special treatment and yet still want equal remuneration?
Isn't it sad that society still do not understand that the roles when it comes to us being raised, as children, that you were raised as a woman, your place is in the kitchen, you have children, you need to nurture them, and the boys see that. And in their minds, that is who a woman is supposed to be. And they grow up with that attitude. And when you get in the workplace, most definitely, you will experience that to say, but why is she getting equal pay? Because she still has to go to maternity and she's going to spend 3 months and get a salary for work that she's not going to be doing. And I'm still going to be here. Who says you can't take a paternal leave? You need to take leave as well because you have a wife. Until society changes the way it treats men and women in terms of responsibility when it comes to children and family and all of those, it's only then that even organizations are going to change. Because it's only then that even our male counterparts in the workplace are going to change their mentality. When you have men who say, I pick up my kids at 2, as much as Prudence picks up her kids at 2. So both of us are closing the doors and we're going to have to go pick up the kids, somehow. And yes, an organization still needs to run, but if we have an understanding that we have responsibilities outside the space that we are in, it's going to be different, most definitely. But if you have a situation where, like I said, you have a man who has a wife, but the wife is the one doing the picking up of the kids, and he remains behind in the office to do the office work, he will not understand that as much as you and I get the same salary and we do the same job, I need to also do what your wife does while you are sitting here.
Yeah, true.
Which you are actually supposed to be helping as well. Until that mentality changes, then we are going to face that situation where we think we need special treatment. In actual fact, we don't need special treatment. It is part of life.
It is.
At the end of the day, I have kids that need to be picked up from school. And I'll still come back here. If I do fall pregnant, yes, I won't give birth in the workplace. I still need to go and take maternity and raise that baby. It's that mentality that needs to change. I think it's a mind shift. It's a mind shift matter that needs to take place in the society first, because that's where it comes from. And then from there, it will easily move into other sectors of life.
So there's this friend of my mother's. She's a diesel mechanic. Like, I look up to that lady so much. Don't tell her I said that. So she's a diesel mech. So she's one of the women that I look up to in terms of taking over sectors that were basically the valley of the shadow of death previously for women. What's your view on this? The fact that women today, they just don't care anymore. They're just doing what they want. They're becoming engineers, they're becoming farmers, they're taking over many sectors all at once. What is your view on this?
Can I can I tell you this? Now I'm gonna go preach on you now, right? So Bible says God created men and women at the same time.
At the same time.
And he said to them, be fruitful and multiply. To both of them. He didn't say, be fruitful and multiply in the kitchen, women. Be fruitful and multiply, men, in the workplace. You go to Proverbs 31, it speaks about a woman who is a merchant, who brings products from outside and she sells, who spots land where as a family we can go and work, where we can go and plow, where we can farm, and purchases that, who now creates garments for people in the household. I'm now talking about a woman who's multi-skilled. If I can now get the merchant sheep and make sure that we're trading, why? Why not? I mean, women have it. It's been given to us as women to say, you are able to do it. You can go into the mining sector and you can do it. So that's the very same thing I wanted to say to young women in this country, that there is no space that is off limits for women. Go in there and you claim your space. Legislation allows, claim your space. The unfortunate part is that in some industries, they take you in and you just become a face, you just become a number.
Yeah.
And in that position, you're not going to make any decisions, yet you will get the salary. Those are the things that we need to be aware of. And we need to now start, buzzing the alarm to say, this is the situation that I find myself in. But we have a right, just as much as the men do, to say we're going to go and claim the space in these industries that are called so-called masculine industries. And there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, true that. Now, there's been a major drawback. I think I can speak for all women when I say that we've encountered this once or twice in our pursuit of work, sending out CVs, interviews and all of that. A pandemic that has been there since the beginning of time. Yeah. Men thinking that they could use job opportunities to get into women's skirts, asking for sexual favors in return for work. How can we change this? Because quite frankly, it's something I'm really tired of.
I think it's about time that women speak up. Most women don't. 2 out of 10 will. And that doesn't help much. Because if I don't do it, the next woman will. That is the saddest thing ever. That I'll decline the offer and say, you know what, I think, no, thank you. I'm qualified, I have the experience, I deserve this job, so I don't have to pay anybody sexually or in any other way for me to get the opportunity. The sad thing is, the next person will.
Yeah, because you didn't report
the
person who did
I
that
didn't
to
report this person, so he's not going to stop. He's going to go and approach the next woman. And out of desperation, and well, it depends on how we make decisions in life. I'm not one to stand here and judge and say, why did she decide to do that? But I'm just saying that it's a pandemic that will not come to an end if we as women don't stand together and report these cases and say, so-and-so did this, and these were the outcomes. Have you seen how when one speaks up, the other woman now comes out? I've seen a whole lot of that in social media, where campaigns where one woman speak up, the others now start coming up because now they're feeling like, oh, so we can actually do this. Yeah. So I feel like as women, we must not shy away from saying, this is what's happening in this place, or this is what's happening in this government department or in this organization. And, authorities need to look at that. But unfortunately, you will have the next one who's going to fall victim, who's going to give in. And then the pandemic doesn't end. Because, if Jazz thinks she's too good,
the next one will probably say yes.
We'll get it from the next one.
Yeah.
So it's just that until women decide to say that, you know what I deserve is what I deserve, and I don't have to pay anybody for it. I don't have to, sleep with any man. I worked for it. I went to school, just like you. I went and got the skill, just like you. I deserve it as much as you do. Therefore, it's either you give me the job or you don't. Doesn't have to be about sex.
I'll go and live somewhere else.
I'll go live somewhere else.
Yeah, Prudence, it was so nice chatting to you today, Ne? So I'd just like you to give a young word of motivation to our young girls out there, like just to keep them going strong, man. Just to, they're not alone in this. You're not alone in this, ladies. We all struggling for a job. We all struggling to get by. Just a few words of encouragement to our ladies at home, so that tomorrow they wake up and work on a clean slate. Feel like, you know what, now is my chance.
What I can say is that a positive attitude goes a long way. A positive outlook on things goes a long way. So get out there, work on yourself and grow you, improve you, work on you, and be intentional about how you spend your time on the daily. Be intentional about making sure that you make your profile to look, enticing. We need to empower ourselves. We live in a free country. We live in a country that is filled with opportunities. It's filled with possibilities. Regardless of all the negative things that we hear on the news, it's not all doom and gloom.
It's not, hey?
It's not all doom and gloom. There's still opportunities out there, and I just feel a positive attitude will move you just one step forward. This morning it will move you a step forward. Tomorrow you wake up with the same attitude, it will move you another step forward. So working on ourselves emotionally, spiritually, and mentally is actually very important for us to make it. But it's not all that bad.
And no problem is bigger than women, hey? That's one thing I realized.
No problem. And I think we are better together.
We are.
We are better together than we are apart. Until we realize that. And I'm not even going to talk about the PhD and his PhD syndrome. Because I feel like we as women are now moving towards change. It's slowly, but it's coming. We're getting there. I see it. That we're slowly moving towards change. And we are saying, if she's doing a business, I'm going to come and support her. If she's giving a service that I don't and she's charging for it, I'm going to come and pay for it. And I ask that she gives me a great service. Because I don't mind paying for it if she's going to do what she has promised to do. And that's it. That's all that we need to do. When I go through the door, I'll make sure I keep it open so that the next one can come right behind me. And that's the mentality that we need to have.
Yeah, I think women have been conditioned from way back that, you know what, the other woman is competition. Men have been given this a 70 son, let's work together upbringing, whereas us women, even from our parents, you'd get, yo, mama, I want to go do that hairstyle because she has it. No, baby, I'm going to take you to a better hairstylist. Yours is going to be better. So we need to start by conditioning our little girls to be union, like basically, as they say on these adverts, unionize and strike. I think I totally agree with you on that one. Thank you so much for coming through, Prudence. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for today, guys. Cullinan Storyline.